When I first heard of Murdered Soul Suspect, it was described to me in just one sentence that got me hooked. You play as a detective that solves your own murder as a ghost. Sounds interesting, right? What a unique concept that I never knew I needed. Well, here comes in the divide between opinions on this game. Looking through all the mixed to negative reviews brings up one clear consensus, that this game failed to deliver on its promising premise of an undying detective on his last case, to free his soul. But I completely disagree. Murdered has a great game direction and definitely pulled through at almost every corner. One thing you'll notice about the reviews for this game is that they won't tell you why the underlying concept failed, they will just tell you some innate flaws that they think Murdered has. And honestly, most of the time, they're attacking the wrong parts of the game. For example, one of the main ways critics express their disappointment here is by saying that the story is too simple or too short, but I think they miss the point. The game is only 6 to 7 hours long and happens in one night, has one murderer, follows one detective, and has one mystery to solve. That's it. The game wants to tell one story and it tells it well. If it went on any longer, you'd have to suspend your disbelief that this could all happen in one night. A game doesn't have to be long or complicated to be good. Murdered's story is strong. It's not bulletproof, but it's an effective narrative that'll keep you hooked. Any story that makes you interested, makes you care, and delivers the story in a cool way is going to be good, and Murdered Soul Suspect is just that. At one point you do get fed exposition, but it doesn't take away from the experience. It's a pretty well-rounded story that only gets predictable at the very end once you get all the pieces. There always seems to be something interesting and mysterious going on that'll keep you playing through the annoying QuickTime events. Along with the narrative complaints comes the critics' criticism of the game not being challenging enough. While Murdered is a detective mystery game, I never got the impression that it was trying to stump you at any point during the game. In fact, if it was, that would really take you out of the immersion that the story and visual atmosphere bring along. You find clues and you quickly piece together the information presented to you. That doesn't have to be overcomplicated. The gameplay mechanic of being able to walk through walls, tamper with certain objects, and possess people are all fun ways the game integrates its ghostly concepts. Walking through walls gives you a new sense of freedom that you never knew you needed. Possessing people, to be able to read their thoughts, peek at what they're looking at, or even influence them is really fun to do. At times, possessing can bring story-driving information, while other times it can be a source of comedy, just like with poltergeisting objects. The only real criticism of Murdered's gameplay that I agree with is the pointless demon escape sections. But at the same time, if you really think about it, you can understand why they're there. These sections may seem annoying at first, but the demons break up the gameplay and even add an extra genre to Murdered. And it's not like these sections are too complex, you just wait until the demon's back is turned and either run past them or take them out. This addition might be due to some groupthink amongst the dev team, but once you get past these bits, the rest of the game is really good. The critics of this game may have gotten themselves too wrapped up around the demons to be able to review the game clearly. I mean, what else were the devs meant to do? If the game didn't have the demon bits, you'd be calling it boring and slow with a lack of variety to spice things up. And now that they do have the demon bits, you call them unnecessary and tedious. This game can't catch a break. While the mystery solving in Murdered Soul Suspect may be almost too simple, it was really the story that got me hooked, and not just the main story either. The world building of the other lost souls wandering Salem is a great addition to this game that made me even more invested. The crazy ex-girlfriend, the woman killed by her neighbours, the drunk driver forced into limbo by his own guilt, and the lost girl on the beach that died a hero. Those were just some of the ghost stories that have a happy ending. Others, not so much. It was also fun to roam around the town of Salem and learn about your own character's past, as well as unlocking the mysteries of Salem with the hidden collectibles around the map. I'm not usually a side mission kind of guy, but for some reason this game made me want to talk to these ghosts and figure out their story. There was something satisfying about giving these lost souls closure so they can move on, all the while waiting for my turn to come. Now, while Murdered's graphics did get the same treatment as Watch Dogs E3 trailer, the downgrade wasn't nearly as bad as some critics complain. Yes, the graphics were dumbed down on PC as to not be jarringly different across the 3 systems it was released on, matching the PS3 and Xbox 360, but it still doesn't look that bad. In fact, I'd say it suits it. It still has that realistic look that it was going for, which most AAA games have now anyway, which is probably part of the reason it was mistaken for one. If you really wanted to, you can mod it with sweet effects to try and get it looking like the trailer, but I don't see the point. It got a slight graphics downgrade, deal with it. It's still a good game underneath. Through all of that, the game still carries this incredible atmosphere. The town of Salem looks great and really helps with the immersion. Along with that are the performances from the voice actors, which are all rock solid, and never once took me out of the game. Another plus for this game's immersion and atmosphere is the score by Jason Graves, who also composed the music for the Star Trek games, Dead Space, Tomb Raider 2013, and Until Dawn. Although one complaint for the soundtrack here is a lack of memorability or a central Murdered Soul Suspect theme. As I mentioned before, Murdered Soul Suspect is not a AAA game, and I have no idea why people thought it would be. I feel like most of the criticism for Murdered comes from a place of disappointment, which can all be rooted back to the fact that people were let down that it was just another indie title. I think this is where the misunderstanding of the difference between a developer and a publisher comes into play. One critic review said that this game was made by the same people that created Life is Strange, but it isn't. Murdered was developed by a very small indie studio called Airtight Games, and Life is Strange was developed by a much larger studio called Don't Nod Entertainment, but they were both published by Square Enix. The fact that people just saw Square Enix attached to Murdered Soul Suspect, the same company that published all the Final Fantasies, Dragon Quests, Tomb Raiders, Kingdom Hearts, and so much more, and expected Murdered to be just as big as those titles is just ridiculous. Expecting a game to have a massive development and marketing team just from having a well-known publisher is going to cause disappointment no matter what. Anticipating a AAA title from an indie developer is almost laughable. This AAA mindset may have been cemented in with the original AAA style graphics, but still somehow no one's alarm bells went off when the game was only $20 at launch. I think there would be much less criticism for this game if everyone knew that it was a short, cheap indie title from the start. Maybe Airtight Games wouldn't have had to close down just after release in 2014. Look, the game is simple, it's pretty easy, and it can even be a little annoying at times, but it's not a bad game. You can still have these criticisms without calling it a bad game. You can still have these criticisms without saying it has a poorly executed premise, because it doesn't have a poorly executed premise. It's just a game that has a few small flaws, and I feel like people are confusing that with being a bad game. Now, if bad games were bad just because they have a couple flaws, then there basically would be no good games because no game is perfect. You might have noticed a lack of spoilers throughout this video, and this is because I actually want you to go out and play this game for yourself. It's only around $3 on key sites and sometimes even less than that on Steam when a good sale is on. Go in with an indie mindset and form your own opinion, separate from the critics' consensus. Plus, it's only 7 hours long. You may find that your own opinion of this game is much higher than seen in places such as Metacritic, and is more like mine and others found on Steam, Google, and other smaller YouTube reviews.